Welcome to Seasons of You, a podcast about seasons of change and our ever-evolving cyclical nature as women. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'll be sharing my experience of harnessing the power of the cycles as a guide for my life. And I'll be speaking to incredible guests where we'll explore struggles, growth, and expansion, and what inspires us to create and live a life that we truly desire. Get cozy and honour this moment for yourself as we dive in to the seasons of you. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I live and travel. I give thanks to the Indigenous Australians who have an enduring and deep relationship to the land, skies, and waters of this country. I recognise that sovereignty was never ceded, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I also give thanks to my maternal lineage, to all the women who came before me, and to all those who came before you. Welcome to our latest guest episode of Seasons of You. This is another amazing conversation with another amazing mum. This guest is Sam, who is the founder of Raised by Design. She helps mothers remember who they are whilst protecting their children's magic. And her wisdom is shared through human design, astrology, and cosmic rituals. I first came into Sam's world a number of years ago now when I had my human design reading done by her, and I can honestly, hand on heart, say that it was life-changing. Everything that she spoke to in my human design reading, everything that I learned about being a projector and everything in my human design, I had never felt more seen. And it was the most validating experience of my life. And then over the years, I have had Sam do readings for my family as individuals, for my son and my husband, but also a family reading to look at the dynamics of our human design. I have done business courses with her, and I'm also in her membership at the moment, which is all about really embodying our human design. And so Sam is really just this amazing woman who I have learned so much from, and working with her and learning from her truly has changed my life. So Sam, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation that I know so many women and mums are really going to love. And I hope that if you're listening and you resonate with the themes that we talk about, that this is really helpful in shifting your perspective in how you view motherhood and yourself in your experience of motherhood. We talk about some themes around self-sacrifice and losing ourselves to motherhood, and really kind of flipping those narratives on its head, which is, I think, one of the most important conversations that we need to have as mums. There's also so much gold in using your human design for yourself, for your kids, and in designing a life that feels most true to you. So I hope that you love this episode. I know that you will. Please make sure that you go and connect with Sam. All of the links are in the show notes. Enjoy this one, my love. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for being here with me and taking the time to share this conversation with me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat today.
So you are my human design go-to and you're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and we're going to get into that. So outside of that, for those who don't know you yet, can you please share just a little bit about yourself and what life looks like for you right now?
Yeah, so I am Sam. I live in Queensland. I am a solo mum of two, and I'm currently homeschooling both of my kids as well. I run my business from home, doing human design and rituals. And yeah, I really do believe that everybody should be living their life for themselves, their own way. We live in a very busy world, but yeah, I'm the biggest advocate for doing things your way.
I am right there with you. Love it. And so I'd love to know then what it was that prompted you to get into human design. Like, what was your journey like up to the point that you discovered it? And then what was it like when you did find out about it?
So I think, like many mums, we have this idea of what motherhood looks like for us. And sometimes we get into motherhood and it looks completely different. And that was the case for me. So I knew that I wanted to parent differently than I was parented. I knew that I wanted more freedom for myself and my kids. I knew that I wanted to give my kids what I didn't have and to raise them in a way that really celebrated who they were. Yet when I came into motherhood, I struggled a lot. I struggled with energy. I was exhausted all of the time. I was frustrated, angry all of the time. And I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like I wasn't keeping up with the rest of the world, or like, all these other mums you would see on social media doing all of these things. And then you're like, well, why can't I do that? I had this amazing vision of who I wanted to be as a mum, and that's not me. And so I was in a coaching program back when I was doing like essential oils as a business, and they talked about human design. And at that point, it didn't really land until a couple of months later. And that is the beauty of human design. It lands, or it finds you when it needs to, and it keeps coming back and finding you until you really listen. And so when I understood that I was a manifester, a non-sacral being, everything changed for me. So I realized, or I found out, that I wasn't here to push. I wasn't here to go, go, go. I was here to rest a lot of the time, which is not something that society encourages or celebrates or honors. And so when I understood that for myself, like everything changed for me. And with a manifestor, you're not self-themed. So the way that you recognize misalignment is anger. And this is something that I was experiencing a lot in motherhood. And
Mm.
I felt like it was just a bad trait that I had. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed of that anger until I recognized that this was my redirector of my energy. Like this was something that was telling me you were doing things out of alignment with who you're supposed to be. This is not the right path for you. So when I understood that and started living in alignment with what it looked like to be a manifestor, resting a lot more, saying no to things, allowing the house to be messy, um, everything changed. Like my energy came back. I was more in that state of peace rather than anger. And there was just so much less resistance in my days. So that's how that changed for me. And that kind of rippled onto everything I did. And then for me, I looked at that, wow, like what can this do for our kids? And that's when I started studying it. And the end is the rest is history.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I really resonate with that too. I had quite a similar experience. And like you did my reading, and it literally changed my life. And I will always, always talk about that because it was truly life changing. I think, particularly as non-sacral beings, just the validation and like I'd never felt so deeply seen. And it's just so, so powerful to have that you can then come back to over and over again. And like you said, it sort of I think I'd heard about it before, but then it wasn't until the exact right time that I needed it that it really landed for me. And it's just been a continual process since then.
Yeah, and I think the way that human design works is most of the population is made up of generators and manifesting generators. So that is 70% of the population. So when we are these non-sacral beings making up 30% of the population, we are looking at the way that 70% of the population are operating. And so we are naturally going to go, I'm not doing it right. This is wrong. I can't keep up. And it's not about that. It is about everyone is able and capable to achieve the exact same amount. It's just a different path to do so.
Mm. It's a real perspective shift. And like I always find, like I always come back to it, is that permission slip of I don't have to do things the way that I've been conditioned to believe I need to.
Yeah. And again, even the non-sacral beings, like we were most likely raised by the generators and the manifesting
Mhm.
generators. So our belief system is to continue to go, 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 go. And you will know as a projector that the hardest thing to relearn is that it is okay to rest. It is
Yeah.
okay to sit down and not do anything. That is the hardest thing that you will ever learn. But when you do learn it and you do it and you see the rewards and the success that comes from that, that rewires the brain to go, okay, this is what's right for me, or this is what is correct for me, and this feels really good for me.
Definitely. And I think that's the piece that you're so amazing at as well, is that it's not just learning like I'm a projector, like learning it theoretically. You're always like, how can we actually integrate this into our lives and embody being that type or all the different layers of the design? But it's not just learning it and reading about it. It's actually, well, how can I align my life with this?
Yeah, exactly. And that rather founder of human design, he has said that it is not, human design is not here to be learned or studied. It is actually here to be lived. And when we do live that every single day, even if it's one thing every single day, noticing where you're not self-esteem coming up, or noticing when you're feeling exhausted doing something, each day, each step is bringing you closer and closer back to who you're designed to actually be.
Mm. And it's such a powerful thing.
It truly is, yes.
Yeah. So coming back to what we were talking about before around motherhood and like sort of struggling and then, finding human design. Recently, you were helping me to explore a process of reclaiming parts of myself that had kind of been lost. And you spoke to something that really set off like a shift within me that I'd kind of been circling, but hadn't had the words yet. I couldn't really figure out what it is that I was trying to get at until, we worked on this together. And it was this idea that you don't lose yourself in motherhood. You are kind of already lost through the conditioning, through your upbringing, and all those beliefs that have kind of been lumped on us. And then motherhood is just what illuminates it and really actually gives us the opportunity to do something about it. And I really resonated with it and, could see this narrative that we have in our society around motherhood that tells us that you lose yourself when you become a mum. And like I know for myself, when my son was younger, I really bought into that narrative because I felt really lost. But then over the years, I've realized that motherhood actually has been the one thing that has helped me to find myself more than anything. And so that's why I wanted to really have this conversation with you because I think it's so important that mums can see it from a different perspective than the mainstream narrative. So, could you tell us a little bit more about your experience with this and what you've seen in working with so many mums and why it's important that we change this narrative?
Yeah, so, and I love the word that you say, that I love the word that you use, illuminate, because it really is, when we enter motherhood, there is that huge theme of losing yourself. However, from the moment we are born, we are conditioned to be something else. And I think in particular for us being raised in the generation that we have been raised, there is this belief that you just get in, you get things done, you just do what you're told. It's very much around discipline. So we have been nearly disciplined to be someone that somebody else wants us to be. So we quite from quite a young age, we are losing those parts of us. We are losing the playful part of us, especially from that generation. It wasn't really about fun. It was about doing what you were told, being the good girl, um, listening, respecting your elders. All of those things disconnect us from who we are. We can't speak up for ourselves. We can't express the way that we want to. We can't access that playful side of us. And that is generally the first thing that we will lose. And then I think moving into the world that we're in now that has a lot of responsibility, the generation before us were a lot of mums could stay home and raise their kids and all of that. But for mums now, we have a lot more responsibility on us. Even if we want to have a career, we still have the mothering role. So we have we lose that playful side of us. And I think it's quite interesting is when we did this practice in my membership, most people wanted to reconnect with that playful side. So
Mm.
for us growing up, that playful side wasn't really accepted or acknowledged. It was more just like, get in, be the workers and do the things. So for me, when I do readings, this is something that, again, generators and manifesting generators make up half the population, and their whole purpose in life is to follow their joy. And this is
Mm,
really hard for them because they have been so disconnected from their joy their entire life. So, circling back, I think that we use motherhood as an excuse of, oh, I've lost myself. But really, it is about when we have a child, we get really clear on the values that we have and that we want to live by. And what we start to uncover is, okay, where was this not present for me as a child? Where was this not accepted for me as a child? Where was I not allowed to express this as a child? And so we become a mother and we look at our children and the innocence of our children and how innocent they are, how playful they are, how the world doesn't really matter. All that matters is like what's real for them right now, and it sparks in us. Oh, I didn't get that, or I that wasn't safe for me to express. So we start to dive into that healing work. We start to try and rediscover who we are. So when we start to do that, we uncover the levels of ourselves that weren't really supported, encouraged, or respected. So that activity that we did in the membership was incredible for a lot of people because we didn't even realize that that is something that we didn't have access to or something that we didn't really encourage for ourselves. So yeah, it's I definitely think that we can use that narrative of losing ourselves in motherhood, but really it's where we get to remember who we are and reparent ourselves back, which can be really hard whilst we're trying to raise a child to be themselves. We're also reparenting ourselves to go, okay, who actually am I?
mm. Yeah, and a big part of it is that safety because it can feel really uncomfortable because we've had all these years, like our whole life, believing that this is something that we shouldn't be doing. So it can feel really uncomfortable to be like, I'm gonna access my joy or I'm gonna play, I'm gonna be creative, especially when we don't even know what that looks like for us. Like, what does joy look like? What do I do for fun that is just for the sake of it? And to create that safety, and that's something that you do as well, alongside the human design, is all the nervous system regulation and support because you kind of can't do it without that.
Yeah, exactly. And even doing that process myself is exploring. So, for context to your audience, is we did a visualization where we were finding the part of us that was the loudest that we had disconnected from throughout our life. And majority of us did find that playful side first, being the loudest. And this was uncomfortable for me as well. I'm a single mum, and I very much over the last 4 years have stepped into that masculine, responsible side of myself. And this was really confronting for me to remove that layer and be present and playful with my kids. And when I did, and seeing the ripple effect that that had with my kids was absolutely like words can't even describe it. My kids are different kids from me removing that layer and inviting that part of me back. Like, it's crazy that we have so many parts that we have shut down, or that society or that our parents have shut down in us, that are actually part of our biggest gifts,
Mm.
and the most transformational parts of us. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And I think having the understanding of your human design is really like a powerful piece too, because like you said, for the generators, like joy is a huge part of them being in alignment. And so if that's something that they've spent their whole lives not being attached to then be able to shift into being able to tap into that and use it as their gift, like so powerful. And for then our kids not having to unlearn everything 30 years later, like to have it from the beginning, like this next generation is just going to look so different.
Yeah, and I think that you saying that as well is like the part that you dismiss the most, or the part that you have forgotten about mostly, is usually the most powerful part of you. So for manifestors, they are here to initiate and inform, but as kids, they are told to stop being so loud. How dare you be so bold? For projectors, they are here to share their wisdom. They are here to rest and live a completely different lifestyle with their energy, yet they are told they're lazy. So their
Mm,
biggest gift is to sit back and wait, and but people tell them they're lazy, so you're going to shut that piece down. Same with the generators and manifesting generators. It's that joy is they are here to live life by with that joy, but people say, oh, just settle down a little bit, calm down a little bit, don't be so loud, don't move so fast. And so from a very young age, we're shutting off the parts of us that actually make us the most powerful. So it's really important to not only reparent ourselves in that process, but raising our kids to be who they're here to be. And you know, this is that what's the word I'm looking for? This is that manual that every mum wishes for when they have a child.
Yeah.
And we get to have that in our hands. And in doing that, like you said, we're stopping them from going through all of the healing that we have to do now.
Hmm. Yeah, which is so exciting. And like, I just, I know that you believe this too. Like, I wish that every mum knew, I mean, every person, but especially mums, knew about their human design and their kids' design for like all of these reasons. Because, yeah, just to think of not having to get to, it's usually when you become a parent that like all of this happens, as we've been talking about, to think that our kids won't have to do that. Obviously, they're going to have stuff as well, but they're just moving through the world in such a different way than we did. And, it's still realistically not the majority, it's still like not mainstream. But I think that the more kids who know their design, whether they like know it or not necessarily, but like I know my son, I don't necessarily talk to him about it specifically, but just facilitating it for him to not have to like shut himself down or shut off his light because like I can't bear the thought of it.
It's funny that you say that because obviously I'm always doing readings. My kids are around human design all the time, so they now kind of use it against me. Where if I'm saying to my son we're in a particular place, he's a generator, I'll say like, okay, let's just like not be running around the supermarket in front of older people and things like that. And he's like, but I'm a generator, I've got to burn my energy and things like that. Or if they've got caved environments, so if he's in some sort of like nook or whatever, I'll be like, come on, let's go. And he's like, but I've got my caves environment. It's my safe zone, which is kind of fun because they do know who they are and what feels comfortable for them. And they know that I support what feels good for them. So it's good for them to know.
I love that. And it gives us that language. Like that's been my experience is having that language to go, oh, well, this is why I need this, or this is why I'm struggling with this. It just gives us that sort of conversation that we can have with others, or even just within ourselves of understanding that feeling and those needs and the struggles that we might have, that we can sort of bring it back to them and go, oh, okay, this is why, and this is what I can do about that.
Yes, and I think also being in this, I guess, parenting space where we are in more of that conscious parenting space, there can be a bit of a belief where you need to give everything to your kids.
Mm,
And when we understand what our needs are, and that is something that I share in readings, is like looking at your chart, going, and these are your biggest needs, these are your children's biggest needs, this is your partner's biggest needs. How can we make sure everybody's needs are being met? When we understand those needs, then we can find the words more for them and we can honor that more. Like I'm a line two, like line twos are the hermits. I need space and I'm with my kids all the time. So I communicate that. I let them know like I need some space right now. You're going to have to go find some activity to do on your own because that's the whole theme of parenting now, isn't it? It's that self-sacrifice where everything's given to our kids and the mother is left behind. But part of that reparenting process is to know your needs and actually honor those needs. And that is how we get to model that to our children as well.
definitely. And I think that like that's been a massive part of my journey is shifting out of that self-sacrificial, that martyrdom of motherhood. And, like there was always it's that it comes from a place of love. We love our children and so therefore we give up ourselves for them. But then actually understanding that that's that's not what's actually happening. And like it's actually quite a burden for the children if you're giving yourself up for them. And so that's what I love about this conversation as well, is thinking of that bigger picture of like, if we are saying that we lost ourselves to motherhood, like what message is that sending to our kids and how they feel about their childhood as they're growing up? or as we speak about it, maybe later in their lives. And so I think that even just mentioning, in this conversation that all of this can be such a powerful way of sort of shedding away a lot of that self sacrifice. And like, I'm a big believer that we can be responsive, conscious parents. We can do attachment parenting, gentle parenting, but it doesn't have to come at the cost of us. Like, it can be both. We can look after ourselves and our kids, and nothing has to be sacrificed. Like, there's compromises, but I feel like the sacrifice is so unnecessary, but it's such a big narrative in our society.
Yes, exactly. And I think that is part of the link and the connection of feeling like that's where you lose yourself, is that there is that expectation that you give everything to your children. And we live in a world with co-sleeping and homeschooling and all of that, and we can still have all of that, but we can still also give to ourselves. Like I said, I'm with my kids all of the time, but I never miss a ritual in the morning. I give myself that time every morning, and my kids know, do not interrupt me in my ritual, because that is what I need to be the best parent that I want to be. And I know what needs my children need, which you do as well with your son, is you know what they need to feel loved. I know what I need to feel loved. And all of that can coexist in the same home, everyone's needs can be met without having to sacrifice your needs, without having to, for it to be like, someone's needs are not being met or someone feeling upset or neglected from it. It can all exist together.
Mm, definitely. And like, you are such an amazing example of crafting a life based on your human design and your values and your kids' design. And it's something you've continually inspired me to do, and to always come back to my human design and use it as this guidance for myself, for my family, for my business, like when I'm making decisions or setting things up or we're making changes. And like, I'm sure this is something that all the mums listening to would love to hear more about, because it is such a powerful thing for us to know not just about ourselves, but our kids, and even the family dynamic, which I know is something that you talk about as well. And you've helped me with, is looking at the pieces of our design that work well together, or where to kind of be aware that they might cause tension points. And that awareness is so, so important in us being able to create a life that is more aligned for us. And I don't know, I'm just wondering, like, do you have any tips for someone who maybe has just found out about their human design of and sort of their kids, and thinking like, what is a few little things that I can do to start living a little more in alignment in a way that doesn't have to sacrifice everyone's needs?
The first thing I would say is, if you are new to human design, look at the energy types of the people in your home. Don't go too far into human design. And it is hard to do because we understand, we find one little thing and we're like, yay, that resonates. I feel so validated. I'm going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. But like we talked about at the beginning, the embodiment and the living is the most important part. So find a period of time, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks, to really just experiment with that. If you're a projector mum, try every single day to, take an hour where you rest or do nothing. If you are a generator mum, start your day with joy. Whatever it is, wake up, have a coffee in the sun, or do an exercise, but put your needs at the top of the list. And just knowing how your specific energy type is here to move through the world is the best thing that you can do. And so many people will say this, that your energy type is the foundation. A lot of people will look at those characteristics, but I always look at like the way that your energy is here to move. Because
Mm,
if someone's out of alignment with their energy, like their physical energy, it's going to impact the whole home. And this is where your themes lie, like your red and your green flag indicators of alignment, misalignment. This is where they lie in your actual energy type. This is your aura as well. So just start with your energy type. Look at how you're here to operate as a mother, and then look at how your kids are here to operate using their energy time. Energy type. It may be that they need more rest. It may be that they need to burn more energy. If you are a non-sacral mum, like a projector, reflector, or a manifester, find activities for your kids that allow you to sit back and take that rest, whether it's going to the beach, let them run wild, going to the park, let them run wild, finding those big wide open spaces so that you can actually rest and sit back whilst they burn their energy. So this is like the perfect example of different energy types being able to work in the same home. It's just around
Mhm.
finding things that honor both. But that's where I would start because it is the biggest foundation of human design. And a lot of people will resonate with the characteristics, but they won't look into that energy, that physical energy part. And that is, our energy is everything as a mother.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I'm sure it would have been. You did a family reading for us. And because I've got my husband and my son are both generators, and then I'm the projector, just to give everyone context. And so I remember thinking, like, I'm just not compatible with them. Like, how am I meant to do this? And I was still in that conditioning of how am I going to keep up with them, which is still, something that I'm always working on. Like, I feel like I will be for a while because it's a process. But it's much easier years down the track. But I do remember experimenting early on of my son being a generator, and he is like just pure energy from like the whole time he's awake. It's just go, go, go. And, I was a stay-at-home mum and like we homeschool. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? But I remember, I think I went maybe to Kmart once and I was like, oh, I wonder if I could get like this glider. It was like a foam glider. It's like I can lay in the hammock and throw it and he can run after it and bring it like sounds like fetch like a dog. Not like that, but But it worked. And I was like, I'm laying down in the hammock. I'm just like doing this little thing, but he's having like the time of his life. And it just was a tiny little example of how two different energy types can actually coexist really beautifully without it feeling like we're sort of at this constant tension point of I need to rest, but he needs to burn energy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the perfect example of family alignment. Like it doesn't mean that you're not compatible. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just about finding ways that connect both. And like you said, it comes back to that self-sacrificing in motherhood as well, of feeling like, okay, I'm a projector, but my son's a generator, so I need to push myself constantly just so that I can honor his energy. No, we can still honor our energy whilst honoring theirs. It's about that, yeah, co-creation and finding that flow within and harmony within the home rather than back to that self-sacrifice.
Mm, yeah, and I think like what you were saying about coming back to just the energy type and the way the energy works. Like even for me, I've known my human design now for a number of years, and I know lots of the pieces and all the layers and everything. But when I'm feeling a bit stuck with things, or I'm starting to feel myself slip into the old patterns of like running on the treadmill or trying to keep up, and I'm like, I know that this is a slippery slope to burnout, which I'm determined to avoid now. I will always just come back to that piece. Like I don't go into all the other layers when I'm starting to feel tired, overwhelmed, stressed out about it. I always come back to that foundational piece of I'm a projector. This is the way my energy works. What do I need to do to honor that? So I think that's a really important reminder for everyone, whether you're just starting out or you've known it for years, like when it's feeling like it's a lot, just keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that for you as a projector, when that bitterness hits, you feel that bitterness instantly.
Mm,
For me as a manifester, when that anger hits, I'm like, oh, something's not working for me. What have I done today that, out of alignment with what I should be doing? Have I pushed myself beyond my limits? Probably. I might have an afternoon where I'm like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm so grumpy. Oh, okay, well, I have had a pretty full day today. I've overscheduled myself. Tomorrow can be a rest day and we just do nothing, and that is okay.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And I think like we have both created lives that allow us a lot of freedom. But I was just thinking of like the mums who maybe don't have the freedom yet, not to say they can't create it, but maybe they're in a 9 to 5 job or and doing the school run, all of those sorts of things. Do you have any advice for those mums who maybe might look at their life and go, but how do I honor this need for rest when my life is set up in a way that I don't know how I can fit that in?
Yeah, so I would always say the big picture or the big vision goal would be to have that freedom, like work towards having that freedom, because you will know that it doesn't come easily. is making these changes in your life. But I guess it depends on how you want to feel for the rest of your life. Do you want to feel frustrated, exhausted for the rest of your life, or do you want to feel thriving? Do you want to parent the way that you want to? So long term, looking at trying to make little steps every day to create that freedom so that you can honor what your body needs. But in the interim, say you're a projector and you are, generally speaking, you should be doing no less than 4 hours of physical activity a day. And that seems very, very hard. But when you don't have if you do have a 9 to 5 job, in the time that you are not working, encouraging that rest,
Mm.
looking at saying no to things. It may be social events. It may be allowing the house to be a little bit more messy than, usual. It may be um, letting the laundry pile, build up. It may be having a screen day. A lot of people will demonize screens, but if it means that you get like 5 minutes to yourself or half an hour to just like sit and be, um, you know, there's that as well. So I would just take little steps. Okay, I'll use this example of kids, right? For a projector. So projectors aren't supposed to do more than that 4 hours of physical activity a day. But kids are going to school for a 6, 7 hour day. So this is completely burning projector kids out. So when we look at this example, don't be doing extracurricular activities. Don't be allowing them to have sleep ins. And that's the same for adults as well. Have sleep ins on the weekends. Don't do much on the weekends. You will start to recognize how this feels in your body when you honor that space. So if you
Mm.
feel like you don't have the freedom with your work and things like that, make changes on the weekend, make changes in the afternoon. It may be going to bed an hour earlier. It may be um, sleeping in for an hour more, like getting more sleep, like doing tiny little things each day to make sure that you actually have that rest. Slowing down a little bit. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that it's not just the way that you use your energy. It's am I scrolling a lot? Do I have relationships in my life that are actually draining me? For projectors, something that really drains you is offering your advice to people that probably aren't going to appreciate it or value you for it. So there's heaps of different things that are draining people's energy in a day-to-day basis that they don't really think about, like those toxic relationships, conversations. So really just doing a little bit of a stock take of your life and going, okay, what doesn't feel good in my life? That is the first thing that you can do to really just bring your energy back in, regardless of what energy type you are. Um, where am I doing things that don't feel necessarily great? That's the first thing to do, especially if you don't feel like you've got the freedom to, quit your 9 to 5 or whatever it is.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And like you were saying earlier, for generators as well, like if they can start their day with joy, like as simple as a coffee in the sun or something, like a little ritual that brings them joy. Because if you are then going to a 9 to 5 that is not something that you really love or are passionate about, like that, even though you're a generator and have this life force energy moving through you, if that's being drained by something that you don't enjoy, trying to build in those moments of joy. Would I be right there?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have no idea how many readings I've done for generators, and especially generator mothers, who they don't know what joy is for them.
Mm.
They have absolutely no idea what brings them joy because they have that go 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 energy. They have just given it all to motherhood, and so
Mm.
I say to them, try something new every day. Try painting, try a new exercise class, go outside, have a coffee alone, and listen to your body. Does this feel like joy for me? And then start to incorporate more of these things in your life. What you'll find is that you can really easily have a day that's full of joy if you start picking and introducing new things in. You might find, no, I don't like that. That's fine. Move on to something else. It may be a painting class. It may be, yeah, trying anything new and just listening to the body. And then
Mm.
starting to incorporate more of those things into your life and removing those things that don't bring that joy.
I love that. And I love what you said about listening to the body. Like, I feel like that's a really important thing to note down because that is another thing that we have been taught to not do. Like, we are taught to ignore our bodies. And I feel like that's been a common theme across all the conversations I've had on the podcast is that we are all, whilst doing all this reparenting and all of that, we're also learning to actually listen to ourselves and listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us. which I know is part of our design as well. It's literally written in our design how we can actually listen to ourselves and our intuition. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and also I guess in the spiritual world, people will always say listen to that gut instinct, and that's something that made me feel like I was not worthy as a parent as well because I didn't have that gut instinct. Not all of us have that gut instinct. We have a different way of listening to our body. So that's an important piece as well, is not feeling like if you don't have a gut instinct that there's something wrong with you. It's just about learning your design and learning in which way your body communicates with you. Mine was through my emotions. So it's different for everybody. So it's really important that we don't get so caught up with doing everything one way. You know, everybody is
Mhm.
so completely different. And when you start to parent and mother in a way that's for you, like the world gets so much quieter and it's so much more
Yeah.
peaceful when you like literally just stay in your own lane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like bringing it back to our kids not having to, relearn a different way later. With my son, I always, if he's making a decision, like it's the yes or no, but sometimes he's still struggling, and I'll say, "What does your body say?" And he says straight away, like if he is given that permission to tune into his body, the answer comes to him like immediately. And I just think like that's so cool to witness it. Like every time I watch him, that moment happen for him, I'm just like, oh, that is so good. I love that for you.
Yeah, I love that so much because I think as parents, we want our kids to make really good decisions in life,
Mm,
but us telling them what's a good decision is not making them make decisions for themselves. That's just conditioning them even more. Whereas
mm,
if like when I do a child's reading, I'm always saying like, imagine your child is 15 and they're going to a party and you have connected them to their inner authority, which is what we call it in human design, is basically their intuition. You have raised them to be connected to that intuition. They go to a party, they have a feeling and they're like, something doesn't feel good for me. Mum, can you come and pick me up? How empowering is that for our
mm,
kids to know in their body that it's time to act on something rather than being like, oh, you know, I'm just going to dismiss that and then something happens. We are not deciding what they should make decisions about, but we are bringing them back to their body so they can always rely on that intuition so that they can make good decisions for themselves.
mm. Yeah, because so many of us have grown up as people pleasers. And like it doesn't matter what we feel or what we think. It's like you've got to make everyone else comfortable, or it's whatever, everyone else's happiness is more important. And so to then, yeah, be able to show our kids that, well, we don't want to make anyone unhappy, like in terms of being mean or anything. But like it's really important that your values and who you are as a person comes first, and whatever feels right or wrong is what you should listen to first. I just think that is probably one of the most powerful things that we could give to our children.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is probably like another layer deeper in human design, but my son has um, all of his centers defined except his heart center, which is all around worth. And so when you have an undefined center, you're taking an energy in here and you're amplifying it. It's also um, kind of an area where you do become that people pleaser or want to do things for other people. And I've noticed that becoming quite loud for him lately. And that is quite honestly, that's conditioning from me. And he's trying to, you know, I'm a single mum. He's trying to do things for me to make me happy. And I have to, but having that awareness, I can come back. I know that that conditioning is going to be big for him. So I can come back and have that conversation with him and say, you don't need to do things for me to make me happy. You are a child. You need to have fun. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing. And if there's stuff going on with his sister, he can kind of go, oh, you know, stop doing this, Ruby. And I'm like, you got to come back and go, mum will deal with this, okay? You know, and really rewire his brain to go, oh, this isn't my responsibility. I don't have to try and please mum. You know, I just here to be a kid and live my life. So with that awareness, there's a lot of change or a lot of transformation that we can make as parents as well, just with that awareness.
Definitely, because things are going to happen in the moment. And as we're living our lives and going through the motions, like it does happen. But then, like you said, to be able to bring it back and go, oh, hang on, I'm noticing this pattern, or I'm noticing this is happening or presenting for my child or myself. Let's bring it back to that awareness. And like, it doesn't have to be like a massive shift all the time. Like, it can be the littlest conversation that can shift things back for them or for us. Um, And again, like so many of the conversations I have, we have this notion, we think that it's these big things we have to do, this big healing, these big shifts, or, um, these grandiose things that we have to do. But actually, it's those little moments that are the most powerful and make the most difference in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we also have to be compassionate with ourselves as
Mm.
parents as well, because we have experienced like over 30 years of conditioning. So it's still a process for us. We're not here to be perfect. We are just here to make changes, like you say, those small changes that can really change the trajectory of our kids' lives. So it's about having that compassion and kindness for ourselves in that as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. So I feel like we're sort of coming to the end of the episode. Before we start to wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share on what we've discussed?
I think we have spoken about this throughout the episode, but I think just allowing yourself to live life for you, allowing yourself to do things your way, and really stepping back from trying to please others or trying to fit into a box that society has made for us. It is really important that you follow your own path and do things your way. Otherwise, you will still you will still be in those cycles where you're hitting challenges, you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling burnt out, things feel hard. The more you come back to yourself and do things your way, the more ease, the more flow, and the more happiness you'll find in your life. So I think just again with human design, living it, taking it slow, like integrating little bits into your life every single day. Don't get caught up in the rabbit hole, but just really have the experiment and play around with it and have fun with it, because it is, so much that it's such a beautiful tool to be able to have in your home, especially when you do practice it and you play around with it and experiment.
Yeah, it's truly life-changing.
It really is.
Mm. So I love to end the episode by asking a question. Having been through all that you have, if you could meet the version of you at the beginning of this journey and speak to her as her higher self of where you are now, what would you tell her?
That's a really good one. um, I would say love yourself as you are and really just follow what feels good to you. I think we can just look back at that inner child and how we were as a child and how much the world changed us, when now we can look at it and go, oh my gosh, like if you had just lived your life as you, things would be completely different. Obviously, we all have a path, but yeah, just love yourself as you are.
Mm. Oh, that is beautiful. Gave me goosebumps. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So before we sign off, can you please tell people where to come and connect with you and tell us about how they can work with you as well?
So my Instagram is raised by design, and currently I am doing readings. I'm doing motherhood readings, kids readings, as well as family readings. But my absolute passion project at the moment is my cosmic parenting membership, where you have basically a human design resource library where you can, I know a lot of people these days are self-led, so you can dive into human design, all of the things for parenting, motherhood, kids. But we also do monthly challenges where it's all about embodiment, remembering ourselves, EFT, we do meditation, visualization, rituals. So it's really a beautiful space, and we are starting circles next month as well. So a place for community for mums who want to raise their kids differently and also want to reparent and heal themselves in the process.
Mm. Thank you for sharing. That is a beautiful space, which I am in, so I can highly recommend that. Um, I think I will, not I think, I know I will put all of the links in the show notes as well. So have a scroll down, go and connect with Sam, check out the ways that you can work with her. All the links will be in the show notes. And yeah, go and follow her on Instagram, have a chat. Like, honestly, so much incredible information and really beautiful ways that you can actually integrate it into your life, not just learn about it. So I highly, highly recommend connecting with Sam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your wisdom and everything that you have shared today.
You're so welcome. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
I want to invite you into a moment for integration because consumption of knowledge is great, but where it turns into wisdom is when we reflect and bring it into our own lives. So my invitation here is to reflect for a minute on what's been shared today, and then choose one tiny step you can take to bring those lessons into your life. Take a deep breath and devote yourself to that step today. With my deepest gratitude, I am so honoured that you have chosen to listen to this episode today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be sure to check the show notes for any relevant links, references, and resources. A final note that this podcast is a space for sharing personal stories, experiences, and inspiration. It's not medical or professional health advice. By listening, you accept full responsibility for how you choose to take or apply any of the information shared. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. You are a sovereign being. Always follow your heart and choose what feels best and true for you.